Hello students, welcome back to the channel. In the last video, we discussed about the introduction to coping with stress. So before we learn how to cope with stress, we need to learn the symptoms of stress. As we have already discussed the causes and types of stress, let's learn what are the symptoms of stress. So the most dangerous thing about stress is how easily it can creep up onto us. We get used to it, right? So generally, what happens is we do get along with a lot of stress in the day-to-day lives, and sometimes we do get used to it. So it starts to feel very familiar, even normal. We do not notice how much it's affecting us negatively, and even as it takes a heavy toll, right? So that's why it's important to be aware of common warning signs and symptoms of stress overload. Some of the most common symptoms of stress are enlisted in the following slide. So I have categorized each of the symptoms in a particular way so that it becomes easy for you to understand and write. First one being the physical symptoms. So what physical symptoms can we see when we are undergoing stress? Okay, the first one being excessive sweating. So when we are stressed, when there's a stressful event, we generally tend to sweat a lot. Okay, you can look at it you can look at a person, and if he's excessively sweating, you can feel that he is on stress. So the next one is trembling of voice or body parts. So we also see a lot of trembling of voice and body parts when if someone is speaking. Then they will you can feel that the voice is trembling. So that can be a sign of stress. Sometimes even the body parts they try to tremble. You can look at the fingers or you can look at the legs. If they're shaking, or if the fingers they are trembling, then also you can make out that the person is in in a stressful situation. Next, we can see headache, nausea, and vomiting. So headache and nausea and vomiting are partners in crime. If one comes, the other also generally comes in. If you have a strong headache, you will feel nauseated, and you might also feel like vomiting. Next is chest pain. So whenever you have a lot of stress, you will definitely feel chest pain. Basically, the muscles try to tell us that you are how stressed you are. Okay, so breathing exercise generally help in chest pain. Then we have insomnia, that is lack of sleep. When we are in stress, we generally do not feel sleepy, and it becomes very hard for us to sleep at night. So, or any part of the time. So that is why insomnia is one of the most common symptoms of stress. Next is stomach disorders. So some people find this funny, but it actually is true that we generally have stomach disorders when we are in constant amount of stress. Next, we find skin problems. So there will be a lot of itchiness or rashness going on in the skin if we feel stress. Then also we can find lack of sexual desire, and there are so many erectile dysfunctions, or there are so many sexual disorders which creep up if we are stressful. So basically these symptoms affect us very much negatively. Next are emotional symptoms. Let's see what are the emotional symptoms we see generally when we are stressful. First one being frustration. So frustration, anger, moodiness. So these three, generally come side by side. When we are frustrated, that means we are angry, and we are angry, we tend to show moodiness. Okay, and so basically, frustration is something which, if we are doing something and it's not happening the way we want, then frustration creeps in, and consequently, anger also. Next is moodiness. You can be in a foul mood. Most of the times, you may be depressed, you may be, obsessed, or you may be thinking too much. So these all things comes into symptoms. Next is low self-esteem. Yes, people who are stressful, they tend to become low in their self-esteem. They stop believing in themselves. Okay, so that is why we tell them as having low self-esteem. Next is depression. So depression is very much common in emotional symptoms of stress. Prolonged depression can actually lead to a lot of side effects and a lot of health issues. But depressive disorders are have a common place in ICD 10 and 11, and a constant amount of depression can actually lead to a lot of mental and physical health problems. Next is burnout, breakdown. Burnout and breakdown generally occurs, and burnout is basically a workplace term. Okay, when an employee becomes too much frustrated with their job and too much tired with their job, that means they get burnout, and finally they break down. Okay, emotionally or physically. Because a machine cannot run for the whole life. So at sometimes their battery will go down, or if it's going in electricity, their generator might go down, the electricity power might go off. So yes, even machines break down. So we are humans, so we tend to break down. We are not machines, but still we tend to break down even more. Forgetfulness, yes, we try to severe memory problems happen when we are frustrated, or we are angry, or when we are stressed. So forgetfulness is very common. Next is constant worrying or anxiety. Yes, that also uh, uh, comes in as an emotional symptom, where we constantly worry about something or the other, or we are constantly anxious about something or the other. So next are behavioral symptoms. In behavioral symptoms, we generally see overeating and undereating. So what is overeating? Overeating means when you eat more than you uh, more than you can fill up. Okay, this is a kind of a common disorder known as bulimia, um, bulimia nervosa, to be precise. So bulimia can occur in a stressful person. Sometimes you see that a stress, more the stress you take, more you eat. Okay, and that too with something you eat with a lot of carbohydrates in that. Okay, so sometimes you also undereat. That is called as anorexia nervosa. So when you are in constant amount of stress, you tend to undereat also. So both overeating and undereating during stressful events is bad and are termed as behavioral symptoms. Next is procrastination. So procrastination means delaying something. Okay, suppose you have a task in hand, and and you have to finish it by suppose by Friday. Okay, so and today is Monday. So you have the task on hand, and you actually, if you sit now, you can finish it by tonight. Okay, but what happens? It's like we are actually stressed about the work, right? How will you do it? How can I do it? And then you tend like, okay, tomorrow I'll ask someone and I'll do it. Next day you forget, or you do not ask. Okay, out of maybe embarrassment, or out of maybe anger, you do not ask. So then at night also again you will think that, okay, tomorrow I'll do something. Okay, and delay. You are delaying the work until Thursday. Okay, and when Thursday night comes, and you are left with only one day, that time you will feel that, okay, I should have asked, I did not ask. Now what to do? So more stress develops in, right? So that's what procrastination is. You should not delay something if you can do it beforehand. Next is avoiding responsibility. So when we have severe stress, that time we try to avoid responsibilities being given to us. So that is also one thing. Okay, uh, it can be family matters, or it can be official matters, or workplace dealings. Okay, so we try to avoid responsibilities. We try to run away from it. Next is nail biting, fidgeting, and stuttering. So these three are very much common in a stressful person. It can actually be seen. So when you are, for example, nail biting is very common when you are observing a game of sports. For example, cricket. So when you are, when you are seeing a game of cricket, if you are a fan of cricket, you are seeing a green game of cricket, maybe on the television, or on the field. So what happens if you're in the batsman side, if you're supporting the batsman side, and the batsman need 6 runs in the last ball, so you'll be tense, right? You'll definitely be tense. The field will be set up for a catch or something, and you will be biting your nails, like what will happen next, right? What will happen if they don't hit the six? So it's like that. The nail biting is very much common. Same as fidgeting and stuttering. You tend to stutter when you say something. or when you speak something, you want to say a lot of things, but sometimes you feel that, hey, should I tell or not, should I tell or not? So you tend so half of the mouth tries to say everything, half of the mouth says like stop, do not say, do not say. So it's like this side or that side. So at that time you try to start up. Next is hurried decision making or poor judgment. So at some times when we are very much stressful, we tend to make hurried decisions or bad decisions. Okay, so at that time it becomes very much difficult for us to cope with it. Next are long-term consequences of stress. What happens when stress is prolonged? So we can see depression, anxiety, and personality disorders. There are a lot of personality disorders which you will learn in our, next when you go to your next semester. So we'll discuss personality disorders there. And for now, you need to understand what is depression and anxiety, and prolonged amount of worry or stress, or prolonged amount of bad moodiness, or prolonged amount of depression is basically major depressive disorders. It's termed as major depressive disorders. Same with anxiety disorders. It can be general anxiety disorder, it can be phobia, it can be mania, etc. So all these are the long-term consequences of stress. Again, heart disease, high blood pressure, hypertension. So yes, there are a lot of cardiovascular diseases or heart diseases which can be found if we have a long-term consequences of stress. Next is high blood pressure. Yes, generally out of stress we actually develop high blood pressure, or sometimes even low blood pressure. It is also known as hypertension, or low blood pressure for hypotension. Then next is diabetes. Yes, everyone know about diabetes. We tend to have diabetes if we are stressed. Next is obesity. It's a very good example for someone who continually keep on having stress, and that you can see that that person is obese. It's because maybe due to overeating, or maybe due to any kind of problems like thyroid problem or diabetes. So underlying problems also occur. Next is thyroid problems. Yes, so hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism are part of stressful events occurring in the body. So it is a very severe problem, and sometimes when you are having hypothyroidism, you tend to be obese. Okay. Next is sexual disorder dysfunction, which I have already discussed. When we have long time consequences, when we have a prolonged amount of stress for months, for years, we tend to develop sexual dysfunction disorders like erectile disorder, or sometimes early. You can also have menstrual problems, as we have already mentioned there. We can have polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS it is known as. Ladies will know it better. This is a very common symptom these days, and it is coming a lot. Um, uh, Although it is a very much medical term, you need to understand that it's some kind of a menstrual problem where there is irregular menstrual flow. Okay. Then we have gas problems and skin problems. Which we have both discussed. Gas problems can also lead to chest pain or severe stomach pain, or skin problems can also lead to rashes or itchiness. So how do we deal with stress? First of all, let's see what are the negative coping. Negative coping. Okay. So the first one being use of alcohol. So sometimes we feel that to remove some amount of stress, we can have alcohol. Next is use of tobacco or smoking. So yes, then also we tobacco also or smoking also we do when we are under stress. Use of drugs or substances. So when we use drugs or substances, it is because we feel that let's go away from stress. Then overeating and binge eating, that is also bulimia kind of. So you tend to overeat, or sometimes you tend to undereat. That is why that's how also we try to deal with stress. Then next one is avoiding people. Yes, when we have a prolonged amount of stress, we try to avoid meeting people as much as we can. So that is also a very much negative symptom. Then there are bad. These all are bad, right? And will actually end up elevating our stress levels and can bring a lot of health issues. So when we do negative coping, that time we can actually end up elevating our stress levels, which will be very bad for our health. So let's talk about some positive coping. Stress is a part of life, and how we deal with it actually up to us. So it is actually a part of life, and we have already discussed this, that for everyone stress is different, right? So we have to deal with it like how we actually can. Okay, identifying the source of stress is very much important, and this is an assignment for you all, that when you have stress, any kind of stress in your day-to-day life, try making a list. Okay, and then it if you make the if you come up with something common uh, uh, throughout your, say 3 days or 4 days, if you come out with a common stressor, that means you will know what is the source of stress or what is the cause of stress. Again, positive coping can also include talking to someone and sharing our problems. For example, with our elders, with our parents, with our spouses, or with our teachers, with our counselors or therapists who can guide us and provide a course of action. So that is also very much important. So when we are stressful, we need to share our problem, no matter what. Do not feel embarrassed or do not feel ashamed. Just share your problem. That is one of the biggest positive coping you will ever have. So there are some coping mechanisms to deal with stress, like for high demand levels, load the person with extra effort and work, right? And a new time schedule is worked up, and until a period of abnormally high personal demand has passed. So the normal frequency and duration of the former schedule is limited. So there are many techniques, to cope with stresses, and some of the following will reduce a lower, reduce the stress amount. Sometimes it can be temporary also, sometimes it can be permanent also. And to compensate the biological issues involved, other faces stressors at a higher level of abstraction. So some of the coping mechanisms can include autogenic training, which these are a very much new term for all of you. So you will learn it when you go to 4th semester. And then autogenic training, you will learn about social activity, doing a lot of social activity things. You will learn about cognitive behavioral therapy, or also known as cognitive therapy, uh, where you will be able to counsel through this therapy. Okay, then we can have conflict resolution theory, or conflict resolution when there is any conflict between anything, say skills, or say a workplace, or say with other people. So that time also we can resolve. Then getting a interesting hobby can also help us cope with stress. Meditation, as we all know, very much help with stress, and there are so many techniques of meditation. You should see the social media or the internet for various techniques of meditation. Mindfulness, where you can just by sitting only, you can just release all kind of tension by doing some simple mind exercises. Okay, that is called mindfulness. Then music as a coping strategy, yes, very much. Music can be a coping strategy for many people. When they listen to music, they tend to forget stress. Then there is deep breathing. There are so many deep breathing techniques in the social media, which you can learn to cope up with your stress. Then planning and decision making is very much important. Listening to certain types of relaxing music, okay, that also come in music. Spending quality time with pets, yes. Also, was having quality time with family also is fine, but with pets also it's a different kind of a coping mechanism. Yoga nidra, and that means you need to do a lot of yogas for how to deal with stress. Reading various novels, which is also very much interesting. For those who read novels, can actually help cope with your stress. Relaxation techniques, prayers. So prayers, people who are at least religious, they can pray, and praying does help. Trust me, praying does help with coping mechanism. Then relaxation techniques, yes, lots of relaxation techniques you will learn throughout your classes. Artistic expression, if you do art or do drawing or painting, then that also can reduce a lot of stress. It's actually a good form of removing stress, actually, if you can draw. Okay, fractional relaxation. There's a lot of relaxation techniques. Humor, yes, with gentle amount of laugh or a smile, you can actually remove stress. Physical exercises, yes, you can learn to cycle, learn to jog, and learn to um, swim, or etc. Where any kind of physical exercise, even stretching is also a physical exercise where you can deal with stress. Next is spas. Going to spas also can help. Then lots of somatic and progressive relaxation techniques also can help. Spending time in nature, yes, very much important. If you should really try it. Then having stress balls, pressing stress balls can be very much stress relieving. Then you also have things like natural medicine, then clinically validated alternative treatments or therapies, and effective time management. So effective time management can actually help you with making your stress go away. So in general, let's see how we can deal with stress with a healthy ways. Okay. So first of all, life changes. What kind of life changes? Quitting smoking or drinking. Eating healthy and nutritious food. You can also consult a doctor or a dietitian for this. But quitting smoking or drinking is so much important because those are the ones which alleviate your stress levels. Take a break, go for a vacation. This is very much important, and many of workaholic people, they do need to take a break, because at times it becomes so important to take a break so that they can when they join back, they can give a fresh start. Next is regular exercise, which we have already talked about: walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, etc. Then we can do stuff like music. We can create music, we can play instruments, we can dance, we can sing, we can motivate others to dance and sing, right? With us. So a group dance therapy or a group music therapy has become so much important to deal with stress. We can also do creativity activities like painting, knitting, cooking. Yes, so everyone can paint, some can knit, and very, very small amount of people can cook, right? But whatever it is, creativity is always accepted, right? So it is very much it will be very much helpful for you to paint or knit or cook. Then, as we have already discussed, we can do yoga, meditation, relaxation exercise, and breathing techniques. So you can learn various techniques of yoga, meditation, relaxation exercises, or breathing techniques through the internet. Then make a daily routine. Give time to the family. So this is also very much important. Making a daily routine. If you have making a daily routine will enable you to have an effective time management strategies. Okay, so this way you can give time to ample amount of people in your family or in your relationship, and there won't be anything to complain, so that you will be stress free. Going out with friends, spouse, parents, kids. So once in a week, try going out with friends, spouse, parents, or kids, because it becomes very much important for us to rejuvenate ourselves with a outing. Okay. Playing outdoor games or sports. So that is also very much important. Nowadays, we just stick to our laptop and computers or mobile phones, right? But that actually puts a lot of stress in our mind. So basically, when we play an outdoor game like badminton or cricket or football, right? So that becomes a very much stress releasing factor. Getting enough sleep, which is much important in today's life. Today, the young generation are sleeping only for 5 to 6 hours, which is less. At least 7 to 9 hours sleep should be a must for every growing child or an adolescent or an adult for that matter. So so try sticking to at least 7 hours of sleep, and if you can, at least 9 hours of sleep on a Sunday maybe, or on an off day. So even after doing all these things, if you still do not reduce your stress, you can always it is actually wise to visit a counselor or a doctor, or someone, or a therapist, okay, or a caseworker. When we are still feeling stressful after doing all this, actually that is also that occurs to a very less percentage of people, then it is very much wise to visit a counselor. So these are some of the healthy ways to deal with stress. In our next video, we will come to the conclusion of this topic. Thank you.